Okay, so Cryptic has now announced another ship from Discovery Season 3. This one is the United Earth Defense Vessel, and it will be arriving to the Infinity Lockbox next week. This is a 4-4 command warship, essentially. Its mastery package is that of the Destroyer warship class, so it's got the crit chance, crit severity, masteries, and then it's got the 10% energy and kinetic mastery, so that's fairly decent. It is 4-4, which is going to draw some attention, but I would argue that 4-4 is perfectly capable in the current state of the game. You can pretty much make anything work if you understand how to build a ship, so it's not a 5-3, but it's not the end of the world. It's still perfectly capable. Let's go over the consoles next. So it's got 3 engineering, 3 science, 5 tactical. And then, of course, once you upgrade this to tier 6X, it'll get the universal console. So it's a fairly solid console setup there. You'll be able to do most standard meta things on it. The trait will give a buff to a target of your bridge officer shield heals. It'll do 20% shield hardness, give them automatic shield redistribution, and it'll make them immune to shield drains. So I think the immune to shield drains part of this might be interesting for those trying to do shield tanking, especially against the Borg, but I don't know how viable those builds are, and I don't know if people are going to want to spend a billion EC to figure out if this trait actually helps or not in that area of the game. The console from this is the Mobile Defense Net, has some shield passives on it. The clicky on this lasts for 20 seconds. It slows you down, creates this massive net around you that gives a variety of buffs to your teammates, and I think the visual on it's pretty cool, so let me pop that up. This was from their stream earlier. So it's this massive net around you that will last for 20 seconds, and it's got a 2-minute cooldown. It's pretty neat. I don't know how practical it's going to be in actual content, though. To get the most out of this, you would need to be in a scenario where your team is all grouped up together and you could just pop this and have them all sit inside of it to get the heals and benefits of it. It's a neat concept, but as I said, I don't know where we would use it. So let's get into the big thing with this ship, which is the bridge officer seating, because that's what everyone's going to be talking about. This is one of the few ships in the game that has 2 commander seats. One of them is a universal commander. The other is a commander tack that also has command on it. So that really piques a lot of interest, because I know a lot of people really think Miracle Worker's the be-all, end-all, but the reality is when we look at elite level content and the types of builds going in there, command ships usually really perform quite a bit better than Miracle Worker in my experience in elite levels of content. And that is largely due to the buffs that Command got earlier this year. So for damage, call Emergency Artillery 3 in that commander slot. If you can group up targets together, that does a massive amount of damage to whatever you're hitting. Launches a bunch of artillery ships at your target, and it's really quite potent. So I really think for those of you doing elite content, that right there is going to pique your interest. But then we've got a Lieutenant Commander Engineering that also has command, and a Lieutenant Science. And, my initial reaction to the ship was excitement. I think a lot of people saw the bridge officer seating and were initially like, oh wow, that looks really neat. And then the discussion started happening, and that excitement quickly turned into just sadness and disappointment. The issue you have with the ship is if you want to do DPS on it, you're really limited by the amount of unconventional systems triggers that you can put on the ship. Because you've got this commander tack/command that you're going to need to put command abilities on, and a few of your DPS abilities, and then you're gonna have to use this commander uni as attack. And when you do that, you are then stuck with just the Lieutenant Commander Engineering and Lieutenant Science to get your unconventional systems triggers in. And at the high end, that becomes a bit of an issue. So I've got this worked out on this notepad here. And the issue is, when you're doing high-end DPS stuff, you need to have a ton of unconventional systems triggers on your build to bring the cooldown of your universal consoles down so that you can hit them multiple times in a run. And with the Lieutenant Commander Engineering, you are just severely limited because there's not any good engineering abilities for unconventional systems. You're stuck with Emit Unstable Warp Bubble 1 and Eject Warp Plasma 1, both of which are some of the worst unconventional systems abilities in the game. In the Lieutenant Psi seat, you can at least do Tractor Beam 1 and a Scramble Sensors 1, but that's not going to make up for the really terrible quality engineering ones that you're stuck with. So this only really affects the high end. If you're a high-end player and you're doing really high-end runs, having just these 4 unconventional systems triggers is going to limit you. But this ship is still perfectly capable for those of you that are just doing channel runs or just pug runs. The ship is perfectly fine still in that environment, and you can make it work quite well. But when I say things like a ship is, disappointing, you have to keep in mind, I do a lot of stuff at the very highest levels of min-max. I'm doing the record-setting runs most of the time nowadays, and not having a ton of unconventional systems triggers to me immediately just makes a ship just not good. That's just my personal bias. Now, the other things we looked at for this ship was, could it be a good tank? And I've got the layout here. So in addition to Call Emergency Artillery 3 becoming a really good ability for DPS, you've got Suppression Barrage 3 for tanking. Right now, when we look at the high-end tanking meta, having a ship that has Commander Command is very crucial to how effective that tank is going to be. Suppression Barrage 3 is insanely good for tanks because it cuts the enemy's damage output in half. So anything that you hit while Suppression Barrage is up, their damage is cut in half with rank 3 of it. So that is really crucial for a tank. And it really has a significant impact on how much survivability you need to have on a tank. So, there's hope that maybe this could be good for tanking, and if you're doing a debuff tank where you're also trying to support, say, a Torp user, you do run into this limitation of you don't have room to slot Aux to Bat to buff up the Torp user. But if you are just in a channel environment or something like that, you can drop the CF3 and just move the emergency powered weapons up to 3, and then you could run Aux to Bat 1 right there in the lieutenant slot. So you can make this work for different environments, and the nice thing about this as a tanking platform is you can even run Gravwell 3. You could drop the structural analysis to Photonic Officer. If I can type. And that right there would be a very strong tank for a channel run. I know this isn't going to be the best tank you could get for your money, but hey, that's something you could do. Now, there's also the Torp support option, which I'm not going to spend too much time talking about, but the basic concept is this ship can run Beta 3 for the debuff, it can run Gravwell 3 to control everything, and it can still run a Concentrate Firepower 3. So for Torp supports, this is a fairly solid platform. The question, though, is it worth the cost? This is only slightly better than the Fleet Titan, and this is a lockbox ship that cost 1 billion EC. Whereas a Fleet Titan, let me show you an example build of that. Here's a Fleet Titan that Tenor posted, and when you look at it, the Fleet Titan is a ship that you can get from the Fleet Store. You can get it completely free to play, and it's going to do just about everything that this United Earth Defense Vessel would do for a support platform. So I, I don't think I would go out of my way if I'm doing Torp support stuff to get the United Earth Defense Vessel when a Titan is just a much cheaper option. And if you have the legendary 10th pack, the Glen, the temporal um, spearhead in there or whatever, that's a really strong platform for support. So, there's a few factors to consider there. For tanking, at a billion EC, you can get a Styx, which is one of the best tanking platforms in the game, one of the best EPS platforms. But the Styx is just such a better ship overall that if I were to choose between the Styx and this United Earth Defense Vessel, I would never choose the United Earth Defense Vessel if I had to choose one or the other. The Styx would win in every scenario because the layout on it just works a bit better for a variety of things. And for Torp DPS, like we've got a variety of ships that work really well for Torp DPS. The Courage is one of the top, well, pretty much the top ship right now. The Dalkina is a lockbox ship that's also fairly solid, but like any ship that has Commander Command and Lieutenant Commander TAC can be a really good Torp platform. Even like something like the Rampart here can do really well. And I don't think the United Earth Defense Vessel would even be able to beat like the Rampart because it's got the limitations with its bridge officer seating. So, it's a ship that has potential, but I just don't think any of you are going to want to spend the billion EC to get it. Will I get one myself? I don't know. If I have a lot of EC later on down the line, I might get one just to mess with it. But I think that the ship is too limiting for the type of things that I do. And I think it's a bad investment for the type of things that I think most of you do. So that's going to wrap up this video. Thank you for stopping by. Please leave a comment below if you liked this type of review on the ship, essentially. And let me know if you didn't. Let me know if you think I should have the ship before I do a review, though I think at this point I have enough experience to say, just looking at the stats of it, if it's good or not. But yeah, that's it for today. Thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you guys next time.